This is SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. The National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org. Buffalo Wild Wings. If it's game day, Buffalo Wild Wings is the place to be. Altec Lansing. Just listen with Altec Lansing, perfecting sound since 1927. And by SWBC Mortgage. Customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now your hosts, Nate Newton and Bobby Belt.
It is week 2 of the 2024 NFL season, and we are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Welcome to Cowboys Crosstalk. I'm Bobby Belt of 105 Through the Fan. Tonight, we've got Mickey Spagnola from DallasCowboys.com.
Yes, sir. Mick Spag.
Also joined, as always, by 3-time Super Bowl champion and 6-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton. And our Cowboys legend this evening is, I was going to say fullback, but that doesn't capture it the right way, I don't think. Yeah. Weapon, Swiss Army knife, all around stud. Timmy Newsome joins us here tonight. Timmy, thanks for joining us.
Oh, wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna have to be a little honest. I'm gonna have to own up to my eavesdropping while I was sitting here prepping. Nate, I heard you were telling Timmy what a big influence he was when you were watching him growing up, and what a player he was.
Oh yeah, just he was everything. And when you get here, one thing I liked about these Cowboys that when I got here, they were all gentlemen. They treated you with respect, and if you wanted help, they were always available to help you. Yeah, that's one thing I can say about these guys. Even Randy White, the master, he was available to beat you up at all times.
He never took it personally.
No, he never did. He never did. He hugs me every time he sees me.
When you were growing up.
Yeah, I grew
you
up
had to be in college by then, right?
I grew up when I was about 6 months.
So, Timmy, it's we were about to use the term fullback, and like I said, I adjusted a little, went for weapon instead, but it's something where there was a time a little bit ago where people, it seemed like, were thinking the fullback position was kind of on its last legs, might be dying a little bit, and it's made a little bit of a comeback in recent years. San Francisco's gotten a lot of use out of Kyle Juszczyk. The Cowboys here have used the fullback pretty consistently. Hunter Lipke is a guy that they're really excited about. Does it gratify you a little bit to see that, all right, people are recognizing the value of this position again?
It does. I think the thing that it gives teams is that fullback that can block in the backfield, can catch the football and run it every now and then. So it's a very utility kind of a position, and I think it's much needed, and it helps in pass protection as well.
We were talking about how, we want to come in here and discuss a little bit kind of your trajectory. So you had started playing college football at Winston-Salem State University. You were a 6th-round pick in the 1980 draft. Just talk about your first recollection coming in here to Dallas and coming into what was one of the most storied franchises already in the NFL, just over even 20 years there. But coming in here, playing for Tom Landry and joining the Cowboys.
Well, first of all, I was not a fullback in college. I was a tailback. And so I didn't block a whole lot. And so when I got here, I just thought I was going to back up Tony Dorsett for a few years and then take his job. But that didn't happen because Landry didn't want it to happen. And so they moved me to fullback, and that's where I stayed. And then I kind of switched between fullback, backing him up, and then playing some tight end.
What was that transition like for you in terms of going to the fullback position? And was it ultimately stylistically similar to what you thought? Like, was it like, hey, football's football, or how much did you have to change kind of your approach when you got into that role?
The hard part was getting used to the blocking culture of the fullback spot. It took me a while to get acclimated in how I should approach it from that standpoint. And once I was able to do that, then I felt pretty comfortable blocking in the National Football League. The other part was running. It's a very patient kind of a position. You just can't go into the hole in a hurry. You have to be very patient. And once you see the crease, you have to take it and move the pile.
So you went from in high school from cornerback safety to a running back. So did that enter that cornerback in high school or safety, that ability to hit, take over when you became a fullback?
It did. It helped me a lot. So, going from one to the other enabled me to have that, kind of gladiator mentality when it came to playing fullback in the pros.
Did you feel like you had to bulk up?
That's exactly what I did when I was in college. I entered Winston-Salem State University as 180 pounds, and I left at 240 and ran a 4.540.
No way.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, how'd you do that?
Ate a lot and lifted a lot of weights.
You know, it's such a when we talk about the fullback position, the Cowboys have such a deep history at the position in terms of you just look at the guy that you came in here and replaced, the late Robert Newhouse, who is one of the famous for the giant thigh pads that were just massive. And then after you, obviously came in Daryl Moose Johnston. When you got here, how much did you lean potentially on Robert Newhouse to kind of show you the way or give you some chops, or was there a little bit more of like a competitive nature to it of like, okay, we're more competitors than we are guys showing you the ropes here?
Not at all. I'll tell you a quick story. I was struggling at fullback my second year, and Robert looked at me one day in the cafeteria. He says, look, if you keep playing like that, you're going to cause me to play a couple of more years, and it's time for me to go. He said, come to my room tonight, and I'm going to show you how to take my job. And I thought he was joking. He said, no, I'm serious. Come to the room tonight. So I went to his room, and he taught me how to block. He said, look, when you block, you run through the guy just like you run the football. He said, you keep your feet moving, and then you widen your base, and you do the things that you have to do to be successful. And that's exactly what I was able to do because of his advice. So he was a wonderful person, a wonderful teammate, and I learned a lot from him in a short period of time.
Mickey, in your time covering the National Football League, have you known a lot of guys whose thought process is, come to my hotel room, I'm going to show you how to take my job?
No. I got a feeling that has faded away, right? No one wants to help anybody take their job anymore.
You know,
the money's too important,
yes,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's kind of funny. It reminds me of I know a story you told late last year while we were doing this, Nate, was about the late Larry Allen, who you had mentioned that the first time you saw him on the practice field, your first thought was, goodness, I hope this guy doesn't play guard.
Hey, bro, yo, man, because he was special. And you saw how he moved and the power and the grace. I have never seen a big man move like that. And I reached over and touched the Big E. I said, somebody about to lose their job. I think I better get the weight down and get the playing a little better. Yeah.
Well, whose job did he take?
So I think somebody got hurt. Somebody left.
Yeah, first job he took was it was Eric when Eric got hurt. Eric Williams.
Somebody got hurt, and then he moved to right tackle. And then the next year, I think Kevin Gogan left, and
that was
Gogan
already
gone.
basically.
Yeah, so Gogan left, and boom, right guard was his job, and I was like, yes, yes, yes.
So that was the year Eric got in the auto accident.
No,
94, the first
94.
year. Yeah, right before the Bengals game that year.
Because he came in as a guard, and it's like out of necessity he had to play tackle.
Yes,
had to play tackle, and then had the ankle injury that made it tough in the '94 NFC title game there. So Timmy, you know, when we talk about the fullback position, I know we'll hear offensive linemen talk a lot about, for instance, you think maybe a mobile quarterback is something that, that's a big benefit. Nate, you can maybe speak to this. I've heard offensive linemen talk about sometimes having a mobile guy back there is not as helpful as you think, because you think you've blocked somebody out of the way or done your job, and then the guy's running right into it, and he's kind of getting out of the pocket. Is there any sort of do you have to have a feel, like when you're blocking for Tony Dorsett and you're kind of lead blocking, do you need to have any sort of a feel for the type of runner he is, or is it just more, hey, here's my key, here's my spot where I need to be, and Tony's going to take care of things behind that?
Well, 90% of the time I would always block from the inside out. So I would always take the inside shoulder of the guy I was blocking and pushing him out, because Tony was a very good inside runner. And so I always protected the most dangerous place that defender could be, and normally that was on my outside shoulder and his inside.
What was it? Is it something where you get feedback from guys like Tony or the backs that are behind you where they say, hey, can you change this up, or could I have you do this a little bit? Like, are you guys in communication with things like that?
No, it's pre-scripted during the week, and we practice it during the practice times. And so once we do that, when we go into games, and it's pretty much as was previously scheduled to perform and do it in a way that kind of makes sense to everybody. There are certain improvisations that happen, but as a whole, we stick to the script.
So with the Cowboys trying to institute the fullback position again, have you paid attention to Hunter Lipke and had an opportunity to kind of see what he's trying to do at fullback?
I have. I mean, I thought it was kind of cool at number 40. I said, that's Bill Bates, but no. But, yeah, I've been watching what they've been trying to do to get him into the flow of things. And so hopefully as the season progresses, he'll have more roles and being able to catch passes and do all the things that a traditional fullback used to do.
Yeah, and he bulked up a little over his rookie year. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of keep moving him around, guys, in different spots. I don't know what you call the spot when he lines up kind of right on the backside of the offensive tackle, Nate.
Yeah, H-back.
Kind of an H-back, because usually H-back kind of a fullback, but he's off to the side.
Yeah, that's what they call H-back now. Yeah, instead of just giving him the name tight end, they just gave him an H-back. He halfway between this and that. Yeah, now, I don't know if H mean that, but that's what it is.
I like that definition of it, that it's halfway. I like that a lot. Yeah. Timmy, so you played from 1980 to 1988 here in Dallas, which is obviously right in the thick of the Tom Landry years. And I think for a lot of people, whenever they hear, you spent almost a decade under Tom Landry, they always love to hear, all right, what was he like? Talk about your experiences. So for you, what were kind of your impressions when you first got here under Coach Landry, some of your experiences with him, and over time, by the end of that decade, when you look back, did anything you look at go, man, this is a guy that I think of differently, or, man, I got to know this way that changed from the first time I got to see him? Well,
first of all, he's very detail-oriented. But he also believed in improvisation. I'll give you an example. We were playing the Rams on a Monday night, and we have this play called 41 wedge, which is really a 1-yard end play. Well, he called it on the 7-yard line. And I looked at him as I was going to go into the game. I said, Coach, that's not what we run out there. He said, just run it. Trust me, run it. So I ran it and scored, and nobody touched me, and I walked to the sideline. He smiled and just walked away.
That's always good. Now, people always talk about just the patience that he had and what a strong leader he was and what a strong influence he was. And, I remember there was a Danny Whitehead. I remember an interview Danny White did where he said he had messed up a play at the end of the game or done something he shouldn't have, and he said, I felt awful because I was the only guy in 29 years who got a visual reaction out of Tom Landry on the side. Was there was there ever a moment where it's like, oh, no, there were times where you could get him a little worked up or a little bit, or was he always just pretty steady and the guy that we always saw just stoic on the sideline?
His stare was the way he complained to you. Yeah, it's the way he looked at you.
I remember
what about you, Nate?
when I first got there, I was pretty quiet my first year, but for some reason, we was in the big. We went to Thousand Oaks,
right?
And we had this big auditorium where we would all meet at first. Mm-hmm. It was like a gym, and they had rooms that was up. But I was at the beginning of a meeting because he would always address the whole team first. So I'm sitting up there entertaining y'all. I don't know what I was talking about. Y'all was laughing, so I was happy. I'm a rookie. I got the guys looking at me because I couldn't sing. So I'm doing all this. Y'all laughing, and all of a sudden y'all just got dead quiet. And I'm like, okay, my joke ain't no good. What's going on? And I turn around. Coach Andrews just looking at me. I just shut up real quick, and he walked on up and addressed the team. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm gone.
All right, well, when we come back, let's get more stories from Timmy as we talk here on the Cowboys Crosstalk. We're also going to talk about the transition that you went through. You're now into a different career field now and had a lot of success there. So we'll talk about some of that next here on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. I'm Bobby Belt from 105 Through the Fan. You are listening to us on 105 Through the Fan or DallasCowboys.com, joined by Mickey Spagnola from DallasCowboys.com.
Yes, sir.
Former Super Bowl champ and Pro Bowler Nate Newton, Nate Newton joins us.
All good.
And our Cowboys legend this evening is former Cowboys fullback, Swiss Army knife, all-around offensive weapon here, Timmy Newsome. Timmy, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
We talked a little bit about, kind of your career trajectory, what you did with the Cowboys. You then transitioned over into, I know, the business side. You got into a field that might be kind of surprising for some people, where they just think like, wow, how do you go from football into the IT world? But talk a little bit about the transition you went into and the type of business that you have today.
Well, first of all, I majored in it in college, which is computer science. So once I graduated, I got here and made the team, and Gil Brandt, the late Gil Brandt, gave me an opportunity to work in the off-season in technology, and I was a computer programmer analyst for 10 years, my whole career. And when I retired, I just transitioned into it, and I've been doing it now for 33 years.
It's I think you hear a lot of different guys talk about when they get done with the NFL, and I think it's something that the PA has been really big on in recent years too, is just the post-football life transition and making sure that the league is giving guys the right resources and kind of helping them out. Did you experience anything like that, any sort of I mean, it sounds like you already kind of had a career in mind and some of the resources that you wanted, but how do you think the NFL does in terms of helping to bring guys along? Do you think that's improved any, or was there anything where you're like, man, I wish back in that day they would have had a little more resources for us here?
It's like anything else. You get out of something what you put in it. And so for me, I prepared for that day that football was no longer going to be a part of my life. And so they were very instrumental in helping me do that through that transition while I was playing. And a lot of guys, when I played, had different jobs. Roger Staubach was heavily into real estate. Pat Donovan was heavily into real estate, and a lot of other guys were doing different things. So in those days, the money wasn't what it is today, and so you had to do something to supplement your salary that you got out of football, and so that's what I did.
Nate, did you know you were going to go into broadcast? Was that like, all right, that's where I'm going, man. I want to be behind the mic.
Nah, Mr. Jones, believe it or not, that I failed miserably. He put me up for a Monday night gig for Tony and all of these guys. He sent me over there to Hollywood for. I blew it. I'm like, bro, I'm not ready for this. Then I went to ESPN for a little while, and they tried to work with me. And then the guy said, I'm going to give you some great advice. Go back to Texas and get into their broadcasting and get into radio, TV, whatever you can do, because they know you and they love you. Because I had a lot of shortcomings, and here I sit. But it has always been things in place for guys that are like Timmy, who has a mature mind and career set. The NFL, and mainly the Cowboys, have always had people in place. They got Brian Wansley now. For guys that want to further their careers and better themselves, the Cowboys have had things in place, and now the league has things in place. So when a guy comes to the NFL, when he walks out and says, they didn't do nothing for me, that will be a lie.
Mm-hmm. I think it's good you mentioned Brian Wansley there, and Mickey, you've been around the team for forever now. That transition, it seems like the Cowboys have done a really good job, especially, at this day and age, the time that I've been around the team. Have you seen the Cowboys go through that process where they recognize, hey, let's make sure that we're helping these guys a little more, giving these guys the tools that they can succeed? Because I think that's one thing that, like you mentioned with Wansley and the Cowboys front office, the Jones family in general, they do a really good job of is making sure, hey, here's some opportunities, here's some ways that we're going to help you integrate inside the community, stay around Dallas, and find a post-football career.
I think between what the Cowboys have done, what the NFL has done, the NFLPA, to make these opportunities available to guys, especially in the offseason. Mm-hmm. I've seen that increase significantly over the years. And I think, back then, a lot of the guys, I mean, even before these guys showed up, I mean, they had off-season jobs.
Oh, yes.
Because they didn't make enough playing football, so they had to do something.
Billions and billions of dollars they've been making for millions and millions of years. And they
It just wasn't that way,
they
huh?
just start. Guys here, guys here with the Cowboys have always been able to make a living because of the winning. They've always been able to make a living. It wasn't as easy in Detroit. It wasn't easy in Chicago. But here, the winning made people always want to stay connected. John Nyland.
John Nyland.
He, as soon as I got here, he wanted me to start business. He was chemical concrete and stuff like that. Hey, come, Nate, I got a job for you during the offseason. I'm like, I don't really have to work during the offseason. But that was their mentality. Yeah. That was Timmy Newsome's mentality. Hey, what is your second career? They start working on that a year after their rookie year. They start working on it.
Now, not to make you sound old, but there was a computer science program in college to take.
Yes,
when
indeed.
you were there.
It was one.
Did we have computers?
Well, yes.
How big were the computers?
They were, well, to be honest, there was this IBM Key Punch 29 machine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we used punch cards my first year in 1976. And then in 1977-78, we went to this kind of little terminal, and there was this big mainframe in Raleigh, North Carolina that we tapped into, and we would have these printed reports.
Really?
Yes.
So what got you interested in that in the first place?
Well, I thought I was going to quit football.
Really? was that a thing where you just you didn't have you were curious about how sustainable that was as a career, or was it what came about from that?
Well, playing at a small school, the coaches also taught health and physical education.
Right.
So I figured if I'm going to quit football, I can't necessarily be taught by the coaches that I quit football. It just didn't feel good.
Right.
You got to understand now, he was coming from defensive back to running back.
So
I heard this story a couple of weeks ago. He's like, man, I ain't running no ball. I'm playing He was a shutdown corner.
Yeah.
He was an all-world cornerback.
Do you wish you would have gotten to stay on that defensive side of the ball, or were you glad you made the flip?
In hindsight, I'm glad they made the flip. But the reason that I switched my major was because I was disappointed that I wasn't playing corner.
Wow.
So I didn't think I was going to play football very long. So I'm in the registration line, and in those days, it took an hour and a half, 2 hours to register.
That's
and there was
right.
a guy in front of me who told me about the business program in computer science. And I said, that seems pretty nice. And so I switched my major before I got to the registration desk and stayed in it, loved it. We had about 250 students. When I started as a freshman, there were only like 10 of us left 4 years later in that program.
So what does a lot of your work focus on today? Like what is if you're just going to kind of explain it to the general masses, how would you explain the work that you do today?
Well, the more technical term is I'm a managed service provider specializing in unified communications and collaborations products and services.
Sure, I know what that means.
Okay, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. So now what do you do for real, man? You punch, what you do?
But I still do a lot of computer programming. I love computer programming, so I develop applications for businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
Very cool. Now
You went right over all our heads.
This is a Missouri guy.
You know, it's funny when he was talking about registration and you got no idea about this. When we were in college and had to get classes, we had to physically go through this room and pick cards out of a folder and say, we want this class.
And hope it wasn't already full.
That's right.
Because you had to go to.
Because then the card would be empty for that class.
You have a set cards, what hours you want, and you got. If you're an athlete, you got to try to get it around the practice time.
Yep.
So if you get there too late, and this card is my class is full, but I do have a 6 o'clock. Well, we had meetings. Are we just coming from practice at 6 o'clock? Oh, you're a football player. That was a strike against you.
It was a traumatic experience, as I remember.
Yes.
I hadn't thought about that in ages. God.
Timmy, did you find that when you transitioned over to your business career then after football, did you find like it was tough? Like some players will talk about this, I hear, where they say it's tough to turn off the competitiveness, it's tough to turn off the football player the first few years? Like you don't feel totally comfortable? Or did you feel like, no, I'm ready to move on to this part of my life now?
You know, since I was doing it while I was playing every off season, the transition was not as difficult. The problem came when I was doing it full time, and I was missing football enough to where I felt like I needed to be doing something athletic.
Yeah.
That's the part I had to get out of my system, and that took a few years.
What would you say to, I think in this era, you know, we've got the NIL era now in college football, and you're getting a lot of guys who are making a lot of money before they even get to the NFL now, and a lot of people who are probably feeling a little comfortable and I don't even need to go to class right now. I don't need to worry about this. What would your advice be to somebody who is going through this NIL era in terms of how you think they should treat this time in school? Like, would you say, hey, you know, don't get too comfortable thinking that this will always be there for you, because that can disappear quickly?
Well, there's a business side to earning that money while you're in college. And the college is there to get an education so you can make yourself a little bit more available to understanding the nuances of trying to manage that money. And that's what college is going to do for a lot of these athletes. And it's going to enable them to provide for their families a lot sooner. But however, they've got to still create an environment where they can intelligently manage the resources that they get early on.
Vic, hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me stop you right now. What y'all just heard is 30% of the students athlete. I'm that other half that's gonna blow every penny. I'm that 70%.
I was gonna say other 70%, Nate, not half, but 70.
Yeah, he's that 30%.
You're buying pizzas for everybody.
Bro,
Right?
I'm throwing a party. I'm throwing every frat. Kappa, Q, come on, Sigma, let's go, baby. House full of girls.
You're the 70% that has Tom Landry staring behind you. I got you. When we come back here on Cowboys Crosstalk, let's talk a little bit about the Cowboys' Week 1 victory over the Cleveland Browns, and maybe some other takeaways from across the NFL. Along with Timmy Newsome, we have Nate Newton and Mickey Spagnola. That's next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Go Cowboys! Live.
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. Bobby Belt from 105 through the Fan. I'm joined by Mickey Spagnola from DallasCowboys.com, former Cowboys offensive lineman Nate Newton, and our Cowboys legend this evening, and the sharpest man I think I've ever seen in a mock turtleneck, Timmy Newsome, joins us here this morning. All right, so the Cowboys, we did get finally an NFL game, and man, it felt like, I know we were talking about this last week, Nate, the idea of, boy, is it exciting? We're here for the NFL season. When they kicked off, it was like, man, this feels like about a year and a half since they left the field against Green Bay. Just forever. Man. And it was well worth it. We get a lot of news. We get Dak Prescott signing his extension on Sunday morning, or agreeing to terms on it anyway. And then the Cowboys go out there and take care of business against the Cleveland Browns. Timmy, I know you got a chance to watch the game. Kind of your just general thoughts, general takeaways watching that first game.
I was very much surprised to see how well the defense played against Cleveland's offense. And then, of course, the offense played well against Cleveland's defense in the sense that they were able to score early and often. But the thing that's most impressive to me is the special teams of the Dallas Cowboys. The kicker, the punter, the kick returner, all of those guys, they play at a very high level, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on opposing teams going forward.
Did you have to play special teams?
Oh, yes.
How many did you play?
I played kickoff return, punt coverage, punt return. I was even as a defensive back on punt return.
Really?
Right. Oh, yes.
What about you?
I played kickoff return, field goal, extra point.
All right.
So when you
kickoff return.
Let's talk about that. Just kind of go around real quick before we get into more specifics about the game. The thoughts on the new kickoff, which I'm excited about because it's going to give you more kick returns, which is something we've heard or saw the numbers this week. We did get more kick returns. I'm also, I think, going to be immensely frustrated trying to remember what exactly the rule is each time I see the ball kicked and where it lands and where it ends up going. But it looks like early on the Cowboys, Bones Fossil, his approach, at least in this game, he wanted to see, all right, let's bounce it a little. Let's see if we can take advantage of Brandon Aubrey, see, what we get in terms of coverage, how much we want to bounce it, get it out of the end zone versus just kick it out of the end zone. Just a little bit of experimenting, but overall, just kind of go around here. Timmy, what were your thoughts on the new kickoff rule and how it impacted the game?
Well, I like the structure of it. I think it's going to increase the number of opportunities for the kickoff return team to score once they get used to it. Once they figure out how to manipulate it and use it to their advantage, I think everybody's going to settle down and use it in a way that's going to make sense.
Nate, what did you think?
Move it, take the kicker, and move him back 10 more yards.
That's Belichick. Belichick said if you want more returns, just move the guy back.
Just move it back 10 more yards, and the strong-legged kickers will you can see the value of your stronger-legged kickers, but those that can't kick and they're more directional kickers, more precision kickers, now they can hit it in these sweet spots and make, because is it a rule where on that, as long as you're on that line, behind that line or on that line, you can move that ball anywhere you want? If I'm them, I'm kicking this thing from here across the field over that way. I would put it in the corner on the one and see what you can do with it. Yeah, just use it to your advantage. But to sit up and kick, Aubrey going to kick it. You can put it on the 2-yard line. He going to kick it still in the end zone. Come on, man.
Mickey?
Well, when he gets jacked up, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
When they were trying to practice it in preseason, and it was like, okay, I want you to land it between the 5 and the goal line, he got all excited and he kicked it halfway through the end zone. I think they need to put the touchback back, bring it out to the 35-yard line.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, when you get a good kick returner back there, why take the chance? I'm just going to kick it through the end zone. Now, what they did on the one, it's difficult to ask the kicker to hit a line drive, let it bounce inside that 20-yard line, and then roll. And if the guy doesn't get to it, then you get the ball at the 20-yard line. And that's what he did. I was asking Bones about it, and I said, so how difficult is that for the kicker to be able to execute that, he goes, it's really hard.
Yeah.
You got to have a really talented kicker. Well, if you're thinking Aubrey grew up as a soccer player, and they were used to placing the ball, not just kicking it as far as you can. So that's something that they can develop. The other thing I noticed, Bobby, was that everybody was wondering who was going to do well, you knew Turpin was going to do it, right? Yeah. And then in training camp, they had Deuce back there, and they had other guys that could run. But I was thinking, if you can anticipate where they're going to kick the ball, I'm putting Turpin there, and I want to put a guy that can block back there. And if you noticed in the game, they had Wanye Thomas.
Yeah.
And he was a kick returner, by the way, at Georgia Tech. But he's big enough as a safety to be able to go and you get an extra blocker instead of having two return guys. So I thought that was interesting that he kind of manipulated it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a big advantage the Cowboys have in their special teams and these kind of things in general because, you know, Aubrey is such a strong-legged kicker, and he's a real weapon for you. And then on the other flip side of it, you know, Cavante Turpin is one of the more electric return guys in the league. And then you've got the guy who's kind of masterminding, orchestrating it all is Bones Fossil, who is one of the bigger special teams gurus that we have in the NFL today. One more special teams question for you. Were you, like me, kind of selfishly, internally looking and saying, please kick the 71-yarder? I wanted him to. I know it was probably reckless, but kicking the 71-yarder, I was standing next to some Cleveland beat reporters, Mick, when they were lining up for it.
Yeah.
And I heard them talking. They're going, "There's no way you can make this. Why would you even fake like you're lining up for this?" And I was like, "Please, Mike McCarthy, kick this ball.
Go ahead and
so
do
these
it."
Cleveland
I was
Riders
hoping.
can see he can do it."
That's right.
They need to learn about Brandon Aubrey. But were you hoping to?
I
was
hoping that they go ahead and just try it. What did they have to lose?
I would absolutely love it. Now,
and the Browns blew it because they put the return guy back in the end zone.
Yes. Exactly. It totally ruined the setup there. All right, Timmy, so watching the second half of the game, I think if there was one criticism I have for this game, which is a really dominant performance overall for the Cowboys, that second half, it's like you never got the finish them off drive. If you wanted just all you needed really was one extended scoring drive that probably would have put it away and made you feel comfortable to go ahead and say, all right, let's wrap this thing up today. Never really got that. You think that's just, all right, that's first game rust, or maybe you're trying some things out, or just credit to that's a really good Cleveland defense that made some adjustments in the second half and was able to take some things away?
Well, I mean, let's face it. Cleveland had the third best defense in the National Football League a year ago. So they weren't chopped liver. And so they came out that third quarter. Dallas got a little bit conservative. And then, of course, Cleveland was able to respond to those tough situations, and Dallas had to punt the football and change of possession. But, you know, that's football. And so hopefully in the future those things can be corrected.
I saw some numbers. We've talked so much about the passing game, how that's the modern NFL now. This week there were only 2 passers that threw for 300 yards. It's the fewest that's done that in week 1 since 2005. You had 7 guys that ran for 100 yards. You had more guys that ran for 120 yards this week than caught 120 receiving yards this week. The efficiency, the per play efficiency, some of the metrics said running the ball was more efficient this week than it was to pass the ball, which that has never been the case over the last decade of the NFL. Do you think the running game is making a little bit of a comeback? And if so, is Dallas equipped to play the game that way this year?
Well, I certainly hope so, because the thing that's, I think, going to be important is when you have a special team kicker like we have, they can keep the chains moving, and the runner can protect the football a little bit better, and they not do more riskier things in terms of trying to move the ball down the field. So hopefully as the season progresses, they'll run the football a little bit more. Whether it's 3rd and 8, you'll run a draw or something of that nature. So, yes, I think that's going to vastly improve.
Do you think these coaches have figured out that without enough work in the offseason, they're limited to what they can do, especially from an offensive line standpoint?
Yeah, contact with the players.
They're limited in training camp, and you're not playing guys in preseason games. Is it easier to develop a running game maybe than a passing game?
I wouldn't
more
say it's
efficient.
easier.
Right now, when you don't know who your players are, we didn't have CD in. You don't know who your players are. You're trying to gel. The most safe and efficient way is to run the ball. back in the old days, they said when you pass, 2 things can happen bad.
That's right.
Versus, when you just hand the ball off, maybe 1. So most coaches are saying, let's keep this game tight. Let's keep it tight, especially if you have a defense. Let's keep this game tight and let our defense help us win and play field position if you have the punter and the punters to do it. That's what the Cowboys did. Mm-hmm. Now, what happened in the second half is you got still 2 rookie guys on the offensive line that you still trying to work into this deal. So it should get better as the season go on. Everybody don't get a chance to play the Carolina Panthers the first game. It just don't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, they'll be taking on the team that was lulled by the Carolina Panthers next week. Nate, really quickly, I know we talked about the Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe, the young guys having to step in. Overall, what did you think of the line play, but more specifically, those 2 young guys?
The left tackle's got to get technique. I try to preach it all training camp. I'm screaming, technique, technique, technique. And because he has a long enough arm and has the quickest feet in the world, just use it to your advantage. Quit leaning. And I'm Coach Solari is doing that. In this past week on BB, he was more of a helper. This week here, he's going to have overs and unders. That's where a guy going to be lined up on him. Now, he had a few times where he went one-on-one with guys, but he had an opportunity to step to them and help, and then they will come to him. This time here, they'll be lined up on his head. So he'll get a full dose of a different look. But every time a rookie gets through a game, that's a win without something major bad happening. They both got through this game, and now they get a chance to look at themselves like, oh, okay, this is what I really need to work on.
Timmy, this was the return of Ezekiel Elliott, which a lot of that is questions about, okay, how much does he have left? How quick is he? But a big part of what the Cowboys talked about is, hey, he's going to be a big thing for us in the passing game because of the way that he's able to chip, help the tackles, and the blitz pickup stuff. There was one specifically in this game where I know Zeke had blocked something up where if he's not there to really take that, Dak is getting absolutely destroyed.
Yes, sir.
How big a part of that was that for you in terms of your game, like the blitz pickup, and how important is that aspect of the job and the technique that goes into being able to take on that just straight bull rush almost that's coming at you?
Well, it's vitally important, especially if an offensive lineman is having some problems. Myles Garrett didn't do a lot of damage on
survived it.
And the running backs, they chipped him a little bit to help the tackle to prevent him from getting that quick escape. So it's going to be pivotal to see if they can continue to do that and also get into the passing routes.
When we come back, let's talk a little bit about this, finish up, tighten up some things from the Cleveland game, and look ahead to the New Orleans Saints. That's next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Yeah, check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Thank you for joining us here on 105 through the Fan and on DallasCowboys.com for Cowboys Crosstalk. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. I'm Bobby Belt, joined by Mickey Spagnola from DallasCowboys.com, three-time Super Bowl champ and six-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton, and our Cowboys legend this evening, former Cowboys fullback Timmy Newsome. Timmy, again, thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure.
Cleaning things up just a little bit before we head into New Orleans, or head into Dallas, AT&T Stadium for this first game against New Orleans. Anything from the Browns game that you say, hey, before you get back home this week, let's try to clean this up, or let's make sure that this is a little tighter as we head into this game?
Well, obviously, the third quarter was very somewhat of a lull. And I think if they can figure out how to settle that and increase the number of third down conversions, then I think that would be helpful.
Because that's 14.
Yeah, that's the thing that they didn't do very well is third down conversion.
Yeah, if they can get one.
Yeah.
They went 0 for 5 in the second half.
It was 49 yards of offense in the second half for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
So
they've got to be able to convert on third down.
Hopefully things a little bit clearer. For you, in your experience, how much were you working things out, quote unquote, like knocking off rust early in the season? Did you feel generally, hey, I'm pretty prepared week one, or did you feel like it took a couple weeks?
You're talking about a guy that played almost 6 preseason games?
Yeah.
You talking about the guys
that's knocking off the rust.
How many games? I came in and they was still playing 5, just barely breaking it down for 5.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a different era. To that, when you watched that, did you see a team that looked rusty, that needs reps still, or is it just how do you look at some of those struggles?
Well, the Cleveland coach was asked that in his press conference about guys not playing in the preseason and did that have an effect on what they did Sunday. And he kind of dispelled it and said, no, that's not it. We just didn't come out ready to play, yada, yada, yada. And so I do think it's an impediment not to play in the preseason. It's a very huge gamble to do it, but not to do it, then you get whatever you strive for when you don't play in the preseason to get that rust off before that first preseason game. And the team that manages that the best are normally the team that's going to win those first few games coming out of the blocks.
What I think helped the Cowboys the most is they played those guys in the scrimmage against the Rams.
Yeah.
And they had 2 scrimmages. And it's a more controlled environment than actual games. But they played firsts against firsts.
They got
and I
30, 40 reps.
Yeah, I thought that really helped the Cowboys out a lot. And they should do that more often because if you're not going to play anybody in 3 preseason games, at some point you got to play football, right?
Yeah,
when you first got there, that was 5 preseason games that year because you went to London, right?
Yeah.
Did you play in every one of them?
Yeah, we played it. We got a series the first time. Then the first game we got a series. In the next game, you get 2 series. Then the third game, you play all the way into the middle of the third, depending on how you playing. Then the fourth game, you just play just a little bit, and then by the 5th game, you was ready.
Last week, this game that the Panthers and the Saints played, you watched this and you saw 2 guys, I think, who looked rejuvenated. Derek Carr looked as good as he's looked in years, to be honest. I mean, a couple of those throws, the first big touchdown throw he had that game was beautiful, just with the pressure coming in his face and the throw that he made down the field. And then Alvin Kamara, who has had his struggles the last couple of years, has not run nearly efficiently. And I think people wonder, man, that physical running style, is he starting to break down a little bit? He looked really good in this game and looked really efficient. Any concerns heading into this one for you guys, for the Cowboys defense? And which one of those is more concerning to you, Derek Carr and what he's able to do with Chris Olave, or Alvin Kamara and that Saints run game?
I would be concerned about Derek Carr. He's a very streaky quarterback, but if he's on, he's on. And he can throw precision passes in a hurry. And so that's going to be key. The problem that New Orleans has is that there's a hurricane brewing in that part of the country. And so they're going to have to revise their practices in some ways. So that's going to affect their preparation.
They already did today.
Yeah.
They practiced earlier Allen, the head coach, basically was going to keep all the coaches at the facility and said, we're sleeping here. Don't want to take a chance of going home and not getting back. And they were going to adjust their practice schedule for tomorrow, too.
Sir.
But they were worried about getting everybody to the facility. And it wasn't so much the wind and everything. It was New Orleans will flood
That's
if they
exactly
get that
right.
much rain, right?
Yep.
And so you may not be able to get back to the facility.
Understand this here. They run, everybody know the zone run. Well, this is what I was trying to tell Isaiah Stanback today. They don't run, they run a short zone where he's trying to make a cut off of the center or the backside guard. And they run one where they're trying to get out to the tackle before they make that cut. Well, when they run that short zone, I'm worried about what our middle going to look like. You know, because they'll double the center, they'll double the nose, and then they'll slip up to the linebacker. But you'll go about 4 yards before they'll make that move. Mm-hmm. Alvin Kamara, he got that pack down. He has had a nice offseason. The only thing that happened to Alvin Kamara is he started having too much fun during the offseason, and it cost him the last few years. He's finally settled back in. He's ready to run. They got two nice running backs. I can't think number 21 name. They got two nice running backs and number 7, the quarterback / legit guy. So
Jamal Williams.
Bro, I am so worried that our older guys, Joseph and the other guy, Jordan, I'm hoping they up to the task, and I'm hoping that Mozzie wakes up and realize that is not going to be a nice slip because they're going to run with you 2 or 3 yards. So that short zone, that long zone got me worried.
And Kamara's the guy who is punishing. Did you guys feel like, I mean, you guys had such a dominant run game, and then obviously, you know, the run game that you guys have with Dorsett and you leading for that. Yeah. How much did you feel like, man, if we can establish our ground game, if we can physically overpower these guys, we're just going to take their will? Because you'll hear defenders talk about that a lot. When you're getting run on, that can be one of the most depleting things for a defense.
Rams, Detroit.
Well, the thing is, it's been Dallas's Achilles heel for the past couple of years in not being able to stop the run. Mm-hmm. So if I'm New Orleans, I'm going to come out trying to establish the run early, knowing that you've got a really good quarterback that can have precision passes downfield. And so that's what I think they're going to end up doing.
Big key then this week, Nate, is that Overshown and Kendricks playing like they did in week 1.
Oh, they're going to have to, but more importantly, the middle of our defense. You know, we want to not call these names. We don't want to say Mozzie has to play. If you look at the Saints defense, their inside guys are very, very active. They're moving, they're eating up blocks to the point where you can see them holding the guard in the center.
Yeah.
You got to be that guy. And I said it last week, and I'll say it again this week. He got 25 snaps, 23 snaps. He did an okay job. Your job is not to be the man. Your job is to make the man. And the man was Overshown and Kendricks because you did your job. Continue to do your job.
My pet peeve this whole training camp is they got to be able to stop the run. They had 5 losses on the road last year.
We got to get the music.
Gave up too much run.
It's a big part of it, no doubt. Timmy Newsome, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Got the Cowboys winning?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. So for Timmy Newsome, Nate Newton, and Mickey Spagnola, I'm Bob Belt. This has been Cowboys Crosstalk. We'll talk to you guys again next week.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!